Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go through Ezekiel, the 43rd chapter, and pretty much a continuation from the previous chapter. And here, as you can see in the subheading, vision of the glory of God filling the temple. Okay, so I'm gonna go through it. It's not a long chapter, but nevertheless, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43, verse 1. Now remember that Ezekiel is still, seeing this vision of this temple that is being showed to him. Okay, along with the ordinances thereof. You had the angel that was going about measuring the different parts, and making sure Ezekiel had that. Basically having the blueprints in his head. So this is verse 1. Afterward he brought me to the gate, even the gate that looketh toward the east. And let me just play this here. Verse 2. And behold, the glory of the God of Israel came from the way of the east, and his voice was like the noise of many waters, and the earth shined with his glory. And this right here would have to be his chariot, because as you go down, Ezekiel describes that this vision that he saw of the glory of the Lord was like the first that he saw by the river Kibar. And when we read about that, it described pretty much, the Lord and the chariot, his chariot. And I forget if there were angels there along as well, but so pretty much that's what it was. And that's why you can see it says the earth shined with his glory. Okay. Verse 3, and it was according to the appearance of the vision which I saw, even according to the vision that I saw when I came to destroy the city. Now, when he says when I came to destroy the city, we know that Ezekiel didn't actually go and destroy Jerusalem, right? But in previous chapters, we do go through and hear about the Lord basically coming to Ezekiel and telling him to pronounce judgment, against Jerusalem. After the Lord has showed him all the, the wicked acts, the murders, the abominations, the iniquity that they were committing over there, the Lord then tells him to pretty much, pronounce judgment against them, right? There was I forget the exact chapter it was, but there was one where the Lord had him draw the outline of the city, and to basically lay siege upon it, to chop up hair, and sprinkle some in the city and light it on fire. Okay, which was to represent in a prophetic, symbolic way, the destruction the Lord was going to bring upon Jerusalem. And the visions were like the vision that I saw by the river Kibar, and I fell upon my face. And you can read about that in Ezekiel, the 1st chapter. Verse 4. And the glory of the Lord Yahweh came into the house by the way of the gate, which whose prospect is toward the east. Now, sometimes as you read, you may have, what I tend to do on the blue letter, at least on my phone, is I have the KJV on the left side, because you can actually, do this on the blue letter. You can have one version on the left side of your screen and then the other on your right. So depending on the chapter I'm reading, sometimes I'll have the NLT on the right side and the KJV on the left side. And as you read in through, when you come across certain wording, you can read in the NLT as well, and then you can sort of get the full picture of what is trying to be said, in the Old English, because sometimes the Old English is not exactly clear. Okay, nevertheless, let me read this verse 4 as well. In NLT, it says, "And the glory of the Lord Yahweh came into the temple through the east gateway." Okay. Verse 5. So the Spirit took me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of the Lord Yahweh filled the house. And I heard him speaking unto me out of the house, and the man stood by me. So you had the glory of the Lord, i.e. his chariot, and then you had the angel, the original angel that was basically taking Ezekiel around, showing him the measurements and so on and so forth. Verse 7, And he said unto me, Son of man, the place of my throne, and the place of the soles of my feet, where I will dwell in the midst of the children of Israel forever, and my holy name shall the house of Israel no more defile, neither they nor their kings by their whoredom, nor by the carcasses of their kings in their high places, which the whoredom, we know here is referring to idolatry, okay, the worshiping of other gods and idols and so on and so forth. Now, when you deal with the carcasses of their kings, it's a little ambiguous, right? It's not exactly clear as to what in what sense this is referring to. You have some sources that say that it's dealing with like the relics of their kings, some of them idolizing them, okay, and some also say it's dealing with them burying their kings in certain locations that were maybe too close to defile the temple, or so on and so forth. Nevertheless, this was something that the Lord deemed as a defilement. Okay. It says here, verse 43 and 18, chapter 43, verse 8, Salakia. It says, in their setting of their thresholds by my thresholds, and their posts by my posts, and the wall between me and them, they have even defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Because keep in mind that the temple, being that it was holy, was actually separate. Okay, when you actually read about how it was set up even in the wilderness, the temple would be when we would encamp, right? When we would stop and camp around a certain area, the tabernacle would be in the center, and then there would be some space, and then you would have different groups, of the tribes, maybe like three at a time, around on the east, on the north, on the west, and the south. Okay, I think the inner most group would be the Levites, right, closest to the temple, but there was still some space there, okay, because of how holy it was. But as the Lord is saying here, they pretty much defied that, and with their abominations defiled not only the temple, but the ordinances of the Lord. And it says, defiled my holy name by their abominations that they have committed. Wherefore I have consumed them in mine anger. Hence the Lord destroyed that place and sent us into captivity. Verse 9, now let them put away their whoredom and the carcasses of their kings far from me, and I will dwell in the midst of them forever. Verse 10, thou son of man, shew the house to the house of Israel, because this is a vision that Ezekiel got, right? So the Lord is saying, show that vision to them, right, that they may be ashamed of their iniquities, and let them measure the pattern. Now, when you actually go, okay, to I think it's Lamentations. Okay, no, it might be the first chapter. Let's see. No. It's I think it's actually Psalms 137. Yep, Psalms 137. Now, Psalms 137. It's as you can see here. I believe this is actually similar or related to Lamentations, because I think this destruction here was talking about when the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem, and that's why it says, by the rivers of Babylon there we sat down, yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. You see, and the point here that I wanted to bring out is that at this point Zion was destroyed, right? Jerusalem was destroyed. The monument of the Lord had been broken down, the temple burnt, and all of that. So even at the remembrance of it, they wept, right? And when you go back here, as the Lord is saying, show them, this house, this temple, this glorious design that I've showed you, that they may be ashamed, to know that, hey, if you had done what you were supposed to do, this could have been how glorious, the temple would have been. This would have been the ordinances. This is how the Lord would have wanted you to set it up. But now it's not even standing anymore because of your iniquities, right? It says, and let them measure the pattern. Verse 11, And if they be ashamed of all that they have done, shew them the form of the house, and the fashion thereof, and the goings out thereof, and the comings in thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and all the forms thereof, and all the laws thereof, and write it in their sight, that they may keep the whole form thereof, and all the ordinances thereof, and do them. Because along with the blueprints of the temple came, what you could and could not do, right? Which we're gonna, as we read, I will go into. Verse 12, this is the law of the house upon the top of the mountain, the whole limit thereof round about shall be most holy. Because remember, Jerusalem was a hill country, right? So it's on a mountainous region, but the Lord is saying where that temple is built, that whole region would be holy. Behold, this is the law of the house. So let's keep on going. And then now it describes the altar. Ezekiel 43, verse 13. And these are the measures of the altar after the cubits. The cubit is a cubit and an handbreadth. Even the bottom shall be a cubit, right? The bottommost layer. Even the bottom should be a cubit, and the breadth a cubit, and the border thereof by the edge thereof round about shall be a span, and this shall be the higher place of the altar. Verse 14. And from the bottom upon the ground even to the lower settle shall be 2 cubits, as you can see here, and the breadth 1 cubit, and from the lesser settle even to the greater settle shall be 4 cubits, and the breadth 1 cubit. Verse 15. Well, let me let this catch up. So the altar shall be 4 cubits, and from the altar and upward shall be 4 horns. Okay, and I mentioned this before because as a part of the sacrifice, the horns were symbolic, right? They were also needed as a part of the ritual. Verse 16, and the altar shall be 12 cubits long, 12 broad, square in the 4 squares thereof. And you can see the measurement on the right. Verse 17, and the settle shall be 14 cubits long, and 14 broad in the 4 squares thereof, and the border about it shall be half a cubit, and the bottom thereof shall be a cubit about, and his stairs shall look toward the east. And that's pretty much where this animation ends. But that's okay, because as we go on, at least in this chapter, it's not many. It's not really any more measurements here, but more so ordinances. Verse 18, and he said unto me, Son of man, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, these are the ordinances of the altar in the day when they shall make it, to offer burnt offerings thereon, and to sprinkle blood thereon. So basically, if they were to make this altar, this is the ordinance of it. This is what you would have to do. But keep in mind, there's actually no, when you look into it, there's actually no actual historical account or proof that of this specific vision that Ezekiel had with these blueprints being built. Okay. So verse 19, and thou shalt give to the priests and the Levites that be of the seed of Zadok, which approach unto me to minister unto me, saith the Lord Yahweh, a young bullock for a sin offering. And thou shalt take the blood thereof and put it on the 4 horns of it. And these ordinances are also in the book of, I believe, Leviticus, and it might also come again in Deuteronomy. And thou shalt take of the blood thereof and put it on the 4 horns of it, and on the 4 corners of the settle, and upon the border round about. Thus shalt thou cleanse and purge it, because this will be the cleansing of the altar before you could even start to perform sacrifices on it. Verse 21, thou shalt take the bullock also of the sin offering, and he shall burn it in the appointed place of the house without the sanctuary, because the process of burning it, which was a part of this ritual, the priest would do it, but there was a certain location which they would do this at. You wouldn't just go do it anywhere. Verse 21. Verse 22, and on the second day thou shalt offer a kid of the goats without blemish for a sin offering. And they shall cleanse the altar as they did cleanse it with the bullock. So the same thing they did with the bullock, you would do it with the kid. When thou hast made an end of cleansing it, thou shalt offer a young bullock without blemish, and a ram out of the flock without blemish. And thou shalt offer them before the Lord Yahweh, and the priest shall cast salt upon them, and they shall offer them up for a burnt offering unto the Lord. 7 days shalt thou prepare every day a goat for a sin offering, and they shall also prepare a young bullock, and a ram out of the flock without blemish. So for each day, for 7 days, you would do this. 7 days shall they purge the altar and purify it, and they shall consecrate themselves. And this kind of reminds me of what the Lord commanded Moses to do, to consecrate or purify Aaron, and his sons, in order to perform the duties of a priest. Verse 27, and when these days are expired, it shall be that upon the 8th day, and so forward, the priest shall make your burnt offerings upon the altar, and your peace offerings, and I will accept you, saith the Lord Yahweh. Okay, and that's pretty much it for Ezekiel, the 43rd chapter. As you can see, we just went through, the glory of the Lord, the blueprints of the altar, and the ordinance as to purifying the altar before you could actually officially start to, perform those offerings, as it says here, on them. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha, Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.